Hey, how's it going? Jason here, and today we're going to be talking about all these tools I have right in front of me. So I had these tools manufactured for us over a year ago. You can see them right there. And it even has our little stamp here, Dongye. Basically translated just to Eastern Leaf in Chinese, and it's on every one of our tools that we manufacture. So I've been doing bonsai for we've been in business somewhere going on 20 years now. And it took me a while to figure out what tools I thought were valuable, which tools were useful. And finally, after all that time, I kind of narrowed it down to the tools that you see right in front of us. I'll go over them really quickly so you can get an idea of what we carry under our Eastern Leaf line. So my favorite one is this Satsuki one right here. As you can see, it's a really small one. And it comes in some basic packaging. I kept it really simple so that I could pass sort of that savings over to you guys. But here's the Satsuki one. And I love this shear. And it's got a little protective thing, and I'll take that off. But I love this one. It's very precise. Has a nice sound to it. It's very good for getting to hard to reach places, and since it's so small, you can get around the branches really easily. So I got my Satsuki one right here. It's very kind of slim form factor. And then I've got this Ashinaga one. It's going to take off these little protective covers. And this one's a little longer. It's a lot longer than the other one. And this one's good if just some people like to have kind of a bigger shear. And some people like to put their thumb inside the handles here, so this one will actually fit it. This one will actually fit your entire thumb. And some people like to put 4 fingers all inside the other handle as well. So you can actually get really good grip on this shear, this Ashinaga one. And lastly is kind of this wider one. This one has even bigger handles. This is our Okubo one. And this one you can fit almost your entire hand into the thing. And this is really good. Some people like to use these for maples. You grab a big chunk of the leaves, then the foliage, and you just cut across. So I have 3 shears in our Eastern Leaf line. And it's basically this Okubo one, this Ashinaga one, and this Satsuki one right here. And after that, I've got my wire cutters. I've got 3 of them as well. I've got the giant one, the heavy duty one. I've got the smaller one. And I've got the palm sized one, this one right here. And so here are the 3 wire cutters that I think almost anybody, beginner all the way to advanced, is going to use. There's some really fancy wire cutters for really heavy wire that I get from Japan, but for the Eastern Leaf line, I stuck with the ones that most people would use. This heavy duty one, and I've got the stamp on there as well. And this one's going to basically cut all your wire up to 7mm, and it's going to do copper as well. This is a very strong wire cutter, and it's got that blunt nose there so that it won't damage your tree when you cut the wire. And then I've got this one, the scissor style one. So if you like to put, if you like the handles on this one's really good for doing 3mm and less. So if you got thinner wire, this is a really good wire cutter to use. And it's really quick. You can put it in your pocket. It's smaller form factor than this one. This one was much longer and much heavier, versus this one is much smaller and easier to carry with you, or just put it in your pocket. And since it's got the same blunt nose, it's not going to put a hole in your pocket as well. And then lastly, I've got this palm size one, and I didn't carry this one before, but I love it. I was originally thinking of not carrying this one in the line, but since I like to use it so much, I decided to share it with everybody. This one's really good for if you're wiring and you just want to hold your shear at the same time. So you can wire your tree while palming this one, and you're ready to do a cut, you can just snap. So this palm size one is exactly what it is. It's just a palm size wire cutter. You can see how small it is. And it's going to do probably the same wire as this one, 3mm and less. And you're not going to be able to do heavy wire with it, but you will be able to do small wire with it. Okay, so let's put those back on there. And then let's go look at the branch cutters. And of course, everybody needs branch cutters. So I've got this gigantic one. I've got the regular one, the concave branch cutter, and I've got the spherical one. So I've got the 3 branch cutters. After working on trees for many years, I've found that it's good to basically just have these 2 sizes in your kit. You don't necessarily have to have all 3. If I were just to recommend one, I'd recommend just this one, the regular concave branch cutter. This is a very good cutter, and let me take off this so you can kind of see it a little bit. Let me take that off, put that aside. So you can see the concave branch cutter. It's nice and new. It's got our stamp on it, and it's very smooth. Over time, it's going to get even smoother, but you can see it's got a nice sound to it. That's the 8-inch concave branch cutter. This is probably one of the essentials that you should have in your kit for sure. So I've got the spherical as well, and this one just has a different rounded point, if you can see that right there. See how it's rounded right there? Versus this one is flat. So this one's really good for doing a flush cut with the branches. It's really good to do for a flush cut. And this one's really good if you want to kind of do a double duty as a knob cutter. You can create more of a divot inside the branch so it heals over. Maybe a little flatter. Both of them are going to cut through branches very well. This one might just give you a little bit more versatility, but this one's going to be a lot easier for getting a pure flat cut, as you can see by the straight edge right there. Which brings us to this one, this 11.5 inch concave branch cutter. It's massive. This is the one you're going to use on your bigger branches for sure. And in my kit, I've got this one and I've got this one, just the flat one. Since I have a knob cutter, I don't usually use the spherical because I have a knob cutter as well. So I have these two in my kit. My tools. And oh, I forgot about this little one. This is a new one that I added. This is my narrow branch cutter. Oh, I like this one. So these are two new additions to my Eastern leaf line that I added more recently versus the other ones I've had for more than a year. But this one's a narrow, very narrow branch cutter. And this is really good for getting really those small branches in the tight spots because sometimes those branch cutters can get pretty big. So this one you can get into really small spots and get it. But what I really like using this for is creating indentations in Shears because look at the point on it. It's very sharp. So you can really dig in to the trunk and peel away so you can get some really deep grooves inside your Shears. And that's what I like about this tool. So I was wrong. I have 4 branch cutters. I've got the giant one. I've got the regular straight one. I've got the spherical one. And I have my narrow one. And now I've got 2 other cutter tools. I've got the knob cutter there. And I've got the root cutter here. And these are pretty specialized tools. The knob cutters are cutting knobs, creating divots so that it can chomp away and it can heal smooth. So I've got the knob cutter right there, and I've got one size. And then you've got the root cutter, which also serves as a trunk splitter. So I chose the 8-inch, and the 7-inch, it can't really serve as a trunk splitter as much because of how small it is. But for the 8-inch, you can kind of get away with some branches a little thicker because you can split it right in the middle. So put this right in the middle. You can split it in the middle, or you can just use it as a root cutter, which is what it's for. And it's really good for just cutting roots. It's really sharp, it's really flat, and you can get a lot of leverage. Another good purpose for the root cutter is manipulating gins. So if you got a lot of deadwood, these are the tools to use because that point and how rigid it is, it's just not going to break. And you can tear away deadwood really easily with this tool. Knob cutter away, put the root cutter, and then the gin plier. One of the most useful tools in bonsai. I consider this a very, very underrated tool. So this tool is fantastic for, obviously for gins, because you can use it to squeeze the branches. But what I find that I use it for is I use it to support wire. And because of the grooves in here, you can see, I don't know if you can see the grooves. Because of the grooves in there, you can grip wire really easily with that. And you can use it to stabilize branches while you bend them. You can use the gin plier to hold onto a wire and use it to bend. You can use 2 at the same time. So if I have 2, and I do have 2 in my toolkit, but if you have 2 of these, you can put 1 in each hand. So let's just assume that this one is a gin plier as well. You can hold 2 the wire and you can bend using the 2. So you can get a little bit more leverage using the pliers than you would just using your hands. So this one is a great tool, and I find that having 2 in your kit is always great. This is also good for using it for tightening guy wire. So because it's so narrow and the handles are so smooth that you can twist in one hand really easily as you tighten guy wire while you free up this hand to do whatever you need or to stabilize the wire. Okay, which brings us to some root tools. And of course I have a basic root rake and I have a basic root hook. So these ones are good, obviously. This is for repotting. This is gonna help you loosen the roots up and you can dig away at this. And this one is carbon steel. I found that carbon steel is more than enough for just manipulating dirt and roots, just spreading there. And you can kind of go in there. And I found that the one pick actually gives you the most control. And then the root rake, when it gets to be a little finer, you can use the rake to separate a little bit. And you got this end too to help you pry away stuff as you need them. And then some miscellaneous things. I've got some nice angled tweezers here. It's good for removing needles, removing weeds, whatever you need to do. And it's got this little pick here right there for whatever you want to use that for. And it's angled so you can dig away stuff. You can help get away roots. So you can do 2 things. Just flip it, pick away, remove. And then I got this little graving tool. This one right here, you can see. And this one's just for removing bark off a branch. So you can scrape away as you create a gin. If you don't feel like squeezing it, you can use this graving tool, this metal one, and you can scrape away at it to make it a little easier. And one of my newest additions, this was just recently added because I love these so much. So these ones you can see right there are great for removing bark and scraping away to create gins or Shears. So this one, the wider one, you can use that to create gins. And then they get narrower, the openings there, all the way to this narrow one. So these are great for having precision lines in your Shears with a little bit of leverage on the length of it as well. I usually use a knife as well to create my Shears, but with these, I'm able to kind of get indentations that are a little deeper, and then combined with the narrow branch cutter, this narrow branch cutter right here, I can really get some depth on those Shears. And these are sold as a set, so you can get all of them in one shot. And as you've probably noticed, they've been all sitting on this little tool roll here, so you can get the tool roll as well. The tool roll is pretty basic, but the nice thing about it is that it's sized for the Eastern Leaf tools. What I like about this tool roll is that it's got these little straps here. And this is one thing I liked about it. It's got these little elastic straps here. And what's nice is a lot of times on your tool roll, these shears will just poke out the ends right here. They'll poke out of the ends and then spike you sometimes when you're walking with it. But the nice thing about these is they're kind of held perfectly at that spot where the handle, let me get that rivet in there. See right here, the tip is there, but it's already stopped right here with that elastic strap so that it's not just poking freely there. And that's a nice way of making sure that you don't end up with holes inside your tool roll. It also prevents your tools from just flopping out or tilting out. So that way, if you carry it, it's not kind of all tangling up in there. The straps keep them in place. But the most important quality about this tool roll is that it fits the 8-inch tools with no issue. So I've got all the major 8-inch tools here, and they fold over. Let me put these in here. And it just folds over and rolls up very easily. But it won't fit some of these larger tools, and that's just how it is. So even though the tool roll doesn't fit the larger tools, it still fits the essentials. So if I were to pick 6 essential tools to get you started, I would say, I'll do kind of a grab bag here. If I were to say the essential tools, if I were to pick the essential tools, I would pick a shear of your choosing, a wire cutter, the heavy duty one so you can cut all sizes of wire, and a general branch cutter. Now, things I would add after that would be a knob cutter, a root cutter, and the gym plier. Now, these are the essential tools, things you would need to add. You know, obviously this would handle most of your styling, your designing. If you're going to be doing repotting, you're going to need something like maybe a root rake, and you're going to definitely need a repotting stick. But the nice thing about this is it closes really nice, rolls up really flat, and protects your tools. So one thing you've probably noticed is that they're all stainless steel. And after doing, being in this business for close to 20 years, I found that when I give my tools to staff, we tend to forget them out in the nursery. So I chose stainless steel as probably the best material for a beginner or intermediate person in bonsai. If you leave these tools out in your garden and you're watering them, they're going to get hit with water, and stainless steel is just going to keep them from rusting. And all these tools are made in China, so that way I can keep them nice and affordable for beginners and intermediate artists. So I hope you enjoyed that video on our Eastern Leaf branded tools. I hope you enjoy them. They're available in our store. If you have any requests, if you'd like to see other tools, just please let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.